I want to talk about Mexican nationalism. As you know, a lot of Mexicans are talking about race, and they're talking about large parts of the United States being part of Mexico still. Why? Because they see Native Americans as being Native Mexicans. They look alike, and therefore part of the United States, or the whole of the United States, and even Canada for some people, belongs to Mexico. Now that is nationalism combined with race, and that is exactly the same as National Socialism, Nazism. Hitler, as you know, started out saying that Austria is a natural part of Germany. Then he started saying, oh, the corridor in Danzig is a natural part of Germany. Then he started saying, oh, the Sudetenland is a natural part of Germany because there's many Germans living there. Well, the Mexican nationalists are also saying that. They're saying, oh, there's a lot of Mexicans in the southwest of the United States, therefore it's a natural part of Mexico. Native Americans were in the United States first, so therefore they are Native Mexicans, therefore the United States is our land. Now with this Nazi approach, Mexican nationalists are just making Americans very angry. But surprisingly, about 40% of the US population actually support this kind of nationalist talk from foreigners, in this case Mexicans. They support the fact because they also see it as a racial issue. Personally, if Canada was the country where a lot of Canadians are saying that half of the United States belongs to Canada, and there's 10 million illegal Canadians inside of the USA, I would have the exact same opinions about illegal immigration. It just so happens that Mexico is the one with all its people running across the border to find a job. Why? Because the Mexican government cannot even provide jobs and a strong economy for its own citizens. So they're going to leech off the United States, which they see as part of Mexico anyway. Even the president of Mexico is saying that exact thing. Now, if you have 10 to 12 million illegals in your country, that threat is greater than a group of Islamic terrorists across the world. You have 10 to 12 million people. They're inside the United States. They have the ability to influence elections by protesting a lot, by helping out in campaigns, by choosing a particular candidate. And when they're out demonstrating on the street, nobody knows if they're illegal or not because they're undocumented. The police doesn't know who they are, where they are, and you will never know. And if you ask somebody for papers, you're labeled a racist. Then you're accused of racial profiling. Okay, so you have a situation where you have 10 to 12 million illegals in your country. That means they're Mexican citizens that are inside of the United States without permission. Now, the United States has an army with maybe 500,000 people. And we're talking about 10 to 12 million Mexicans inside of the United States. Let's say half of them are men. So we're talking about 5 million people. 5 million. There are countries in the world with less than 5 million people. Now, what can be done? The Mexican government is encouraging its citizens to go across the border. Why? Because they will send back nearly 11 billion US dollars, which the United States government loses and the Mexican government gains. Now the United States can build a fence, and that will stop a lot of illegal immigration. But I've seen pictures of fences with giant holes in them. It's very difficult to patrol a border that is that long. You have a lot of American companies trying to hire illegals because they only care about the bottom line. They don't care about their own country. You have liberal Americans actually spouting off the same rhetoric as Mexican nationalists, if you can believe that. You have politicians pandering to Hispanics. I saw Rudy Giuliani say at a recent debate, a Spanish debate, that, oh, it must be so tough to be an illegal in the United States. Well, you're like a stowaway on a ship. Okay, you're not supposed to be very comfortable if you're a foreigner inside of another country without permission. The problem is that Rudy Giuliani, just like many other politicians, want to offer a lot of benefits to even foreigners. Now, it's not as if Mexico is a brutal dictatorship and innocent people are being slaughtered and they're escaping. No, they just want to have dollars. They want to have better paying jobs. Well, it's not the United States' priority to take in that many immigrants. They have an immigration procedure. The trouble is, Mexicans don't care about the rule of law. They don't care about a U.S. immigration procedure. It takes too long. It's easier to run across the border. Now, if the Mexican government is supporting this kind of illegal activity, if these illegals see themselves as Mexicans, even when they're in the United States, they don't want to become Americans. They will become Americans if they ever get amnesty, only on paper. They will still feel as though the United States is part of Mexico. And that's the big difference between immigrants in the past and immigrants now. Immigrants that break the law to cross into a country and refuse to assimilate are not really immigrants. They're visitors. And because they're illegals, they're invaders. Now, if these 10 million illegals all had an AK-47, they could really take over a large part of the United States. And nobody ever thinks about that. If they all wore a uniform, they would be seen as an invading army. And we're talking about millions of people. Now, if you see that the United States can invade a country like Iraq with 400,000 to 500,000 troops, imagine what you can do if you have 5 million Mexican men inside the United States already. God forbid there would be a war with Mexico. There would be 5 million or 10 million Mexicans ready to fight who are already inside of the United States. So these Mexi-fascists really believe that a large part of the United States, or the whole of the United States, belongs to Mexico. Do you think immigrants from Italy in the past, when they came to Ellis Island, saw the United States as being part of Italy? No. Do you think the Irish came in to the United States thinking the United States is part of Ireland? No. But these Mexican National Socialists, they go around with signs talking about their race, about Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, and they have signs that have swastikas, and they're talking about how white people should be deported from the continent, and they're illegally invading the United States and staying there. Many of them are criminal elements. Now, please, we're talking about Mexican fascism at its worst. Okay, we're talking about a socialist form of fascism where people will actually go into another country thinking that country is part of theirs, and the government sanctions it. It's a kind of invasion by proxy. Instead of invading with an army, which Mexico could never do, they're invading with people. People will reproduce, people will start to have an influence. If you go to any major city in the southwest of the United States, you will see that large parts are already Hispanic. It's like you're in Mexico. And you see that even now for political debates, they will have one in Spanish. What the hell is that? I don't know about you, but a country's sovereignty is defined by having secure borders and having a national identity. Now, if you have 10 to 12 million people inside your country who believe that your country doesn't have a right to sovereignty, and that your country belongs to another country, don't you think those people should be deported or put in jail just for saying that? Now, these fascists coming from Mexico are a joke, but they're having an impact because the United States is not being tough enough, and they will not be tough enough. It started with Reagan, a conservative, giving amnesty to so many illegals in the late 80s. Even Bush is so liberal on illegal immigration. All the candidates running for president, they're all double talking. Nobody cares about US sovereignty. Big business, they only care about the global market. They don't care about borders. US politicians don't care about borders. Only US citizens do. And half of those are colluding with Mexican fascists. It's a